Hey y'all, welcome back to the Free Black Women's Library YouTube channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. My name is Ola. I am an artist, cultural worker, and the creator and director of a social art project called the Free Black Women's Library. And on this channel, I talk about books, movies, and TV shows I'm really excited about, really into, I find curious, I find interesting. And in today's video, I'm talking about the TV show A Different World, Season 1, Episode 13. The name of this episode is The Prime of Miss Lettie Bostic. Scene 1 opens up the dorm. Immediately, we find out that Stevie, the resident director, has left. She's moved on to bigger and brighter things. She has left to get married, and Jaleesa is the temporary resident dorm director. Jaleesa is running things in the dorm, and then we see Denise. Denise is handing out a flyer. It turns out that there is a woman named Lettie Bostic who's coming to do a talk at Hillman. She is an ex-student of Hillman. She never graduated. She dropped out to dance all over the world, hoochie coochie, all over Paris, France, London, New York. She went on to live her best life. She was a spy. She was a performer. She was a big deal. She was iconic, right? It's giving Josephine Baker vibes. And Mary Alice, who is goated actress, is playing this character, Lettie Bostic. So this is how we're introduced to the new dorm director. This is what this episode is doing. It gives us a new dorm director. It gives us a little bit of her backstory. And I enjoyed this episode because I love Mary Alice. Denise is handing out the flyer to let people know about her talk that's coming up. Denise is very excited. Denise, excuse me. Of course, Denise looks up to Mary Alice because she embodies all of the characteristics that Denise holds dear, being free, being creative, taking risks, opening up to different challenges and ideas. Yeah. So we see Mary Alice in the next scene. She's in the Hillman Center building, the same set where they had the debate. And she's telling a story about being a spy and how she's sneaking out some spy notes through during the war. And she's captured and she's playing the violin. She's pretending like she can play the violin, and she leaves, and they ask her where were the spy notes, and she said they were written on the music sheets in invisible ink. So yeah, so she tells the story, and you can tell all the students are captivated, all the students are excited, they're amazed. What's her name? Whitley asks her, did you ever meet the great Coco Chanel? And so we see that the students are definitely excited by her presence and being there. The talk ends, and we see the dean of students talking to Mary Alice. They have this scene where the two of them are talking, and he says to her, would you be interested in coming back to school and finishing your degree? And she's like, I'm already living my best life, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, come on, you know that the way you're living right now is not meeting your needs and your standards. And she says, true, I'm bored out of my mind. So he says, well, what do you say? Come back, finish out your credits, get your degree. And in exchange, all I need you to do is be the dorm director for Gilbert Hall. And she says, oh, this is blackmail. And then Denise walks in and she says, oh, Miss Bostic, would you sign my flyer? And Lettie signs the flyer and leaves. And she says, how much did you pay that student to come in here and do that? And he's like, if you say yes, it'll be worth it. So Lettie takes the job. She says she agrees to be the dorm director for Gilbert Hall. So then we see that Denise comes in back into the dorm. We're back at the dorm, and she comes in and she's like, did y'all hear the great news? Lettie Bostic is going to be our new dorm director. And you can see Jaleese is kind of upset because nobody told her. And Denise is like, I'm sure they're going to tell you. And she's just like, So Jaleese is kind of upset because she feels like she was doing a good job as a dorm director. Like, why didn't they let her know? And Whitley is like, oh, do we really want some like wild vagabond child who was hoochie coochieing all over Paris to be in charge of our dorm? And then we see our two girl characters who don't really get to say much. They never have a story, but they get a few lines here and there. And they're like, ooh, it's going to be so fun having her here. This is exciting. And so as they're talking, Lettie walks in and Denise says, Miss Bostic, on behalf of all of us at Gilbert Hall, welcome home. Welcome home. Denise is so dramatic. Yeah, so Lettie's like, okay. And the girl says, yes, it's gonna be so fun having you here. It's gonna be a party. And Lettie says, no, no, it won't. And they're like, oh. So Lettie kind of gags them because they're thinking that because of her stories that she told, she's going to be this easy pushover partying dorm director. And she's like, no, honey, that is not what's going down here. It's not happening. And so she lets them know that. And she goes into Stevie's prior apartment. She goes in there and Whitley says, I guess she's hoochied her last coochie. Denise has the best dialogue. So one thing I wrote down in my notes is that all this time I thought that Gilbert Hall was a women's only dorm and a girls only dorm, but apparently it's not. Apparently it's a co-ed dorm with women on one floor and men on another. I did not know that. So all this time that Dwayne Wayne has been popping in and out, Stevie used to kick him out. I thought she was kicking him out because it's a women only dorm, but maybe she was just kicking him out because he didn't live there. I don't know. I think they kind of changed this on us. They kind of switched it just to make this story make sense, because what's happening is that the girls are trying to come up with a way to keep the boys out of their bathrooms during certain times of day. They're trying to have some type of order in terms of bathroom usage and privacy and timing. And there are some people who don't want the boys to have access to the bathrooms on their floor. And there are some people who don't care. And there are some people who think it should be on a timer. So this is a debate that's going on amongst the girls. And so they're having this meeting to talk about it. And Jaleesa is the person who's running the meeting because this is Lettie's first night in the dorm. And so as they're debating, we see that Maggie is jumping back and forth between the decision as far as like what should be done, because there are some people who think, oh, let the boys use the bathroom at night. There are some people who say let the boys use the bathroom in the morning. And so Maggie's hopping back and forth. And as you know, Maggie is not really good at making decisions. She's somewhat chaotic and so on like that. And then we have Millie, who is just backing up whatever Whitley says. And then we have Whitley, who's like running her mouth and talking and talking and talking. So in this moment, we see Lettie Bostic tell Whitley, you really love the sound of your own voice, right? And then we see Millie, and she says, Millie, I know there's a spine in there somewhere. And she says to Maggie, oh, the queen of indecision. And she talks about the two girls going back and forth, bickering like chihuahuas. So she gags everybody. She snaps on everyone. She drags everyone. And Jaleesa says, Lettie, maybe you should just let me handle this. And Lettie says, okay, fine. I'll be in my room if you need me. So Lettie leaves and Jaleesa follows her. And so we have this moment between Jaleesa and Lettie. It's a really good scene. It's a really tense scene, but it also makes Jaleesa look kind of annoying to me because Jaleesa is mad at Lettie for trying to run the meeting and all the critique that she was giving our girls. But the critique was well deserved. Maggie does need a spine. Whitley does talk too much. Millie does need a spine. Maggie is like everything she was saying was facts. It was a little harsh, but it was facts. Jaleesa is actually not mad at Lettie for what she said. She doesn't care. She's mad because Lettie came over to take her position of power. She liked being the dorm director. She liked being in charge. So part of what I appreciate about this episode is that it gives us a little more insight into Jaleesa's character. We do know that she is kind of bossy. We do know that she's a bit of a know-it-all. We do know that she has strong opinions. She likes being in control. She likes being older. She is a bit critical. She's been this way since episode 1. So the consistency is great. Her being mad at Lettie didn't make no sense because it's like, it's not Lettie's fault. It's the school. The school played in your face, not Lettie. So either way, so they have a conversation. And Lettie's like, listen, you look like you needed help with that meeting. Like nothing was really being solved. So I stepped in. And Jaleesa's like, okay. So that conversation doesn't end well. Lettie goes in her room and the girls come down to talk to Jaleesa and they're like, she got to go, right? So they come up with this plot as to get rid of her. They want her to quit. And of course, Denise is like, you guys know she's our voice of reason. And they're like, nah, the way she snapped on all of us, we don't like that. So the next morning, Lettie comes out of her room and all the girls start acting up, right? The different ways that she critiqued them, they start to overdo it. Willie comes downstairs and starts singing, I just love the sound of my own voice. And Lettie's like, okay. And Millie's like, oh, Whitley, And then we have Maggie going up and down the stairs trying to decide on whether or not she wants to do laundry. Oh, I think I'm going to go do laundry. Actually, I think I'm going to go for a run. But don't put off tomorrow what you could do today. But it's so nice outside. So she's going up and down, right? Because she is the queen of indecision. And then we have Jaleesa with the megaphone marching around. You, stop that. You, blah, blah, blah. And Lettie comes out and she's like, great. This performance was so, awesome, wonderful, right? And they're like, well, what do you mean? And so Lettie's like, goes back in her room and they're thinking, yay, we got rid of her. We did so good. We were so, we ran her out of here. Yay. And Denise is like, what are y'all talking about? Because Denise comes in, like, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh, and they're like, oh, just nothing. We're just, trying to send Miss Paris back off to Paris. And Denise is like, oh my God, you guys, what is wrong with y'all? So they start like getting all happy, partying, and they have all these sodas, and Maggie throws a soda to Millie, or Millie throws a soda. Someone throws a soda to Millie, and she doesn't catch it, and it hits the TV, and the TV explodes. Old school TV, not a flat screen, one of those ones that sits on the floor, a big box TV. Breaks the TV. And as the TV breaks, in walks in the dean who hired Lettie to take her out to get food. And he's like, "What happened here?" And so they're all standing around looking at each other, and Lettie's standing there, and she's like, "Oh, I was just showing the girls my 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 throwing skills or whatever, and I missed." So she takes the blame for the TV being broken so that the girls don't have to struggle with that situation. And the director, the dean, is like, okay. So the dean and Lettie go get something to eat, and then the girls are just kind of standing around staring at each other like, now they feel bad because they tried to run her out of there and ended up breaking the TV, and she took the blame. And Denise is looking at them like, well, how do you feel now? Right? You proud of yourselves? And they're just looking all embarrassed, except for Whitley, who's like, I didn't do nothing. So Lettie comes back, and all the girls have collected money to help pay for the TV. And they're like, oh, we're so sorry. We don't want you to leave. And Lettie's like, I never said I was leaving. And they're like, oh, but we were so horrible. And she's like, oh, well, I wasn't going nowhere. And I definitely wasn't going to pay for that TV. Y'all was going to pay for it anyway. So Mary Alice is playing this fun character, and we get to see more of her, which is so awesome, even though, of course, we miss Stevie. But yeah. So yeah, she pretends she did it, and that is pretty much how the episode ends. We have a moment where Jaleesa and Lettie make up, and she admits that she liked being drone director and she liked being in charge. And Lettie's like, of course, I understand, and I'm sure you were doing a great job, but I'm here now, and it's all good. So all's well that ends well, and that's how this episode ends. Episode 13, season 1, The Prime of Miss Lettie Bostic. Fun new character, Mary Alice, but we will miss Stevie. Maybe she married the geology professor that Denise set her up with in that other episode, the one Denise had a crush on. Maybe. Yeah, fan fiction. Anywho, give me a like, leave a comment, and please subscribe to my channel. Thanks, y'all. Wishing you well. Have a beautiful night.